They're equipped to withstand injuries. Butch Johnson is one of the best receivers in the league. As I said, a star in the Super Bowl game. He thought he finally had Golden Riches displaced. Now he finds Tony Hill ahead of him. When you got that kind of talent, so much of it, you can't fail to be up there.
1st and 10, Dallas.
Look out. Dorsett, look out. I said, look out.
Maybe.
No, got the angle on him.
Dorsett out of bounds, out at the 28-yard line.
Ryan Harrison, wasn't it?
47-yard pickup, and watch him accelerate. Now, he'll get on that sideline, Howard and Don, and watch him kind of coast and turn it on and try to get by them.
Looked like Bruce Laird missed him right there at the first, and this is Dwight Harrison who had a pretty good angle on him. Knocked him out. There again, you see Dupree kind of just flirt with him going to the outside. That whole right side just knocked him in again. There's Pearson out in front.
Key block, and I'm sure Tom is happy with it. Andy Frederick, number 71. You saw him.
He moved him in, didn't he?
Took Fred Cook inside, and Dorsett was gone. Doug Dennison will relieve Dorsett for a moment, number 21. 1st and 10 at the 28-yard line. Staubach.
Look out, Roger.
Screen. Billy Joe Dupree. And Dupree gets 3 yards. Hit there by Joe Ehrman. Dorsett. Warm night. It was 101 degrees here during the day. It's still warm in the stadium.
Had a twister in downtown Dallas.
Oh, they had some weather down here this afternoon.
Just missed
winds,
it.
Tornado warnings. And a very warm night. And Dorsett has been a very busy young man.
He's been a twister all by himself.
A little play on words there. I
yes,
like that.
Yes.
Little man rolled for over 6,000 yards. An NCAA rushing mark at the University of Pittsburgh a couple of years ago. He has 76 rushing and 99 receiving already this evening. 1 second and 7. Staubach.
He's wide open.
Watch the crossing pattern, and he goes to Tony Hill.
I'm telling you.
Oh.
Now you understand all over again why Tony Hill is starting over Johnson and Richards. What an extraordinary young player.
And we're also seeing, Howard, Don, why everyone's going to be playing for second in the Eastern Division of the NFC. They have so many weapons.
Now, this is I don't think he was the guy. I think he was trying to hit Pearson out there deep. You see him just kind of turn back around. Roger, timing was, look at that. Now, that is just great concentration. Tom says he's never seen a receiver anywhere that had the ability to run under the ball and make those adjustments on the blown patterns. Well, that was just to stretch out and let me get my hand on it.
Lyle Blackwood's coverage was not that bad.
Was that Lyle over there?
Yeah.
2-minute warning. 3rd down, short yardage. The wide receivers, Hill, Pearson come out. The 2 tight ends come in. We'll see the short yardage play in a moment.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Baker.
And I'm Connie Dolan. We're Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
We've got a question. What do Steve Largent, Louis Kelcher, and Haven Moses have in common?
Answer, all 3 appeared in the new series of NFL United Way announcements this season.
Players from each of the NFL teams take you to special places in their towns, like Bunker Hill in Boston,
Stone Mountain in Atlanta,
and the country where legends say Paul Bunyan lived.
Then they
Tony Hill to set up a Doug Dennison 1-yard touchdown, and then a 91-yard touchdown pass, Staubach to Tony Dorsett. That's the scoring thus far. Newhouse.
He's good.
And the little one breaks tackles, moves inside the 10. 1st down goal. Finally stopped by Lyle Blackwood.
He is good, but the inevitable happens. Defense breaks down. When you go into a game the way Marcia Broda obviously did, as you look at Newhouse again, you'll see a good hole, and then you'll see him keep that balance, break a tackle, and then go right on. But when you go into a game with the game plan Marcia Broda actually quite obviously had, you're giving up. You're just trying to hold it close, and you can't against this arsenal of weapons that Dallas has.
Dorsett gets away from Fred Cook, tacks on a couple more yards.
Sooner or later, your defense breaks down, Don. You know that. You can't be out there all the time. Think back to your time of possession figures.
Dallas uses one of their timeouts. They have 2 remaining. They lead in first downs, 13-1 over the Baltimore Colts, and Roger Staubach will go over and visit with one of the most successful minds in the coaching game today. Tom Landry visiting with his quarterback.
All right, we've got a big one coming up next week in Bloomington, Minnesota. The Denver Broncos, winners over Oakland against the Vikes. Let's look at Denver against Oakland yesterday. Right here, Craig Morton, number 7. A quick loop pass to 25, Haven Moses. This followed a fumble of a punt by Neil Colsey, and thus Denver took a 7-0 lead. Throughout the day, they were like Denver a year ago, opportunistic. And Stabler's receivers failed him, like here. He hits blue-fingered Freddie Biletnikoff, but Freddie didn't hold it. And Bernie Jackson picked it off. Now watch Jackson speed down the sidelines. Some crunching play here. Some of it happens out of bounds. That's when Mickey Marvin almost went crazy. The Oakland offensive lineman, who was a big, watch this, fisticuffs, that's Mickey Marvin. But it was all quieted down. There happened to have been 3 penalty calls on the play. In the long run, the Denver Broncos, with that great opportunism that earmarked their play a year ago, beat Oakland 14-6. We'll see them next week against Minnesota. Frank, the live action.
Second and goal, the ball at the 8, stop back to the air. Flip, there he is. Right over the middle, big Billy Joe Dupree, and Dallas is rolling as we thought they would. The #1 offensive team last year in the NFL, the #1 defensive team. Back, second touchdown pass.
He really spread them out, didn't he, Frankie? He had receivers all over that end zone. He had Dupree working in the middle, and he had good protection. We'll take another quick look at it again. You'll see that there's Rafferty. You've got Scott in the middle. He's got some time to throw. You can't cover him. That's Simonelli trying to come back on Billy Joe, and Billy Joe made a little turn to the outside. So they really opened it up.
Raphael Seption, who got off the hook after missing a 1-yard field goal attempt. On for the conversion. Pops it through, and Dallas extends their lead to 21-0 with 1 minute and 6 seconds remaining in the first half.
Interesting to see Jim Tunney here. He's one of the best officials in the league. He was rushed into service yesterday in Denver for the Oakland-Denver game when the official who was supposed to have been working got ill. There's Jim Tunney right there.
You know, he has quite a little business going to. He's a motivational speaker, and he
That's right.
speaks all over the country to different sales groups.
He's excellent. He really is a quality guy and a quality man in his job.
You know, quite frankly, they all are. They do a tremendous job under incredible pressure. Everyone's second-guessing them. They have to make split decisions. They have no replay. Of course, they tried that out in preseason. We'll hear the results of that in a study they're making now as to whether or not it will help the officials, whether it's feasible at all. That will take place after the end of this season.
As we await the kickoff, the game is becoming a rout, 21-0. The Cowboys. Glad at the top we didn't try to fool you. Without Mitchell, without Jones, without Raymond Chester, this Baltimore team looks like very little.
Seption hangs it high. This will be Marshall Johnson. And Johnson does a little fancy footwork and gets out close to the 30-yard line, out around the 29-yard line. And, you know, Don, what the Cowboys do, not only the organization, which has been intact since 1960, I'm speaking of Gil Brandt, Tex Schramm, and Tom Landry, and, of course, what they really got is an owner who doesn't stick his nose into it. I mean, he just lets them go and do what they want.
That can be the biggest help of all.
But the key, I think, is their physical conditioning. A lot of the players live here, and they have a voluntary program under Bob Ward, where they do, each of them has his own little program for weights, running that they have to do, and you seldom ever see a Cowboy injured. They had none in preseason, actually. They're in great condition. On 1st and 10. Incomplete. The screen. Attempt to Marshall Johnson.
They also have the kind of organization led by Gil Brandt that keeps this team up there, because that's where it's all at in the annual draft. And on the kickoff, you saw Marshall Johnson stopped by number 76. That's a kid to watch. His name is Larry Bethea. No relation to the Bethea of the Houston Oilers, the #1 draft choice out of Michigan State. According to the Dallas way of thinking, he will become an exceptional player.
Second down, 10. The ball inside the 30-yard line. Don McCauley, single setback. Mike Kirkland to the air.
Open there. There you go.
Down to Marshall Johnson. It's complete at midfield.
He had him open and he hit him. That was a good pass. His first real offensive threat besides the quarterback keeper that's got him a first down.
First completion.
22-yard pickup, and Mike Kirkland calls for a timeout. He'll move over to confer with Ted Marchibroda. We'll look at it again. A very calm Mike Kirkland, as he had drawn a crowd back there. Steps into the pocket and drills it. His first complete pass in a regular NFL season game. And against Baltimore, a first down out of midfield. They trailed 21-0.
There's no quitting that kid Johnson. I like him.
He is good. He really is.
Bert Jones on your right, his right arm in a sling. Troop on your left, he has a very sore right arm. Both of them hurt in the final exhibition game last week against Detroit. Let's take a look at that 91-yard touchdown pass. Barnes got a finger on it.
End over end.
Simonini almost
He could have
got a
tied it
touchdown
up.
out of
That's
it,
right.
and then forget it.
Those ifs and buts again.
They say baseball's a game of inches. What about that?
Well, it really all is, but they really got, there's just, they had them there. But you guys were talking about the Dallas organization a while ago. You didn't mention a guy named Ermel Allen. And Ermel is the guy that really is involved in putting all the numbers, all the statistics that they really rely on so heavily together so well. I don't think I know anybody in professional football that can give you answers so quickly and really be so right about it.
On the first down, Mike Kirkland with his first completion. Feeling a little confident. It's away from Jones. And
Randy White.
Ended by Randy White, and we haven't heard much from Randy tonight.
They haven't needed him.
He is good. That Randy White is quick. He's gained about 7 or 8 pounds since last year, and say he's still growing. He's playing this year at a little bit over 250, around 255.
Lineman of the Year 4 years ago. They tried him a little bit of everywhere, Dom, before he finally found a home.
But, you know, I think, Frank, the reason why is because he could play anywhere. Every place they put him, he played pretty well. And they just said, well, where do we need him most? And that's where they really decided that that's the spot for him. Because I think Brunig is really a key to their holding that defense. He came in and filled Leroy Jordan's shoes and has really done it well in a very short period of time.
And nobody talks about him. Few write about him. But he's a solid man.
Bob Brunig.
They've only had 3 middle linebackers in, what, 19 years?
Jerry Tubbs started it off. Well, they actually had, you know, Jack Patera played a little middle linebacker in there in those first years. But everybody, I played
Jack?
a little bit. Old Jack Patera.
He's not happy about yesterday.
He should be happy about that team he's putting together, though.
He really is. It's being built on a solid foundation. We speak of the Seattle Seahawks.
8 ex-Dallas Cowboys are on that team.
29 seconds remaining in the half. Baltimore has 1 timeout remaining. They have a 2nd down and 7. The ball is at the 46-yard line of the Dallas Cowboys. Doughty going out to the left. To the right goes Roger Carr. Neither has made a reception this evening. Marshall Johnson, flanked right.
Randy Hughes almost got. Look at White.
And down goes Kirkland in the arms of Randy White, the young man we were speaking of a moment ago, as Kirkland did well to get back to the line of scrimmage, and Tom Henderson is lying on the field.
Look at number 42, Randy Hughes, coming in from that safety. Again, this is that kind of prevent defense, but he occupied everybody back there, and you're going to really free it up. He didn't get the tackle, but he forced him out of that pocket, and that's where they close back in and do it. So it's most every time
White get in there and clutch him.
But most every time, it really is a combined effort of everybody.
Clock ticking away, inside 15 seconds. Tom Henderson, all right. Very warm night. Some of the players beginning to feel the heat. 3rd down 10.
Look out.
Mike Kirkland.
Now that one is Harvey.
Harvey Martin getting away from Wade Griffin over on the left side of Baltimore's line, and Kirkland is still down. The backup quarterback perhaps would be Troop, and if not, it would be McCauley. Here comes Harvey. Watch number 79.
He just went right around him, didn't he, Frank?
Well, you can't talk around it. You've got to hit it head on.
Kirkland is up.
He's up. But the number of injuries in the league now has become startling. And I don't know what can be done because of the nature of this game of football. But certainly there should be an instant new study. And I'm sure Pete Rozell's in favor of it, together with Ed Garvey, who runs the Players Association, to find, as the half ends, every possible way to protect the men who play the game.
And that is the end of the first half. The Cowboys leading the Colts 21-0. Colts 21-0. Stay with us. Exciting halftime activities from yesterday's play. Mike Kirkland. Now that one is Harvey.
We're back live at Texas Stadium. The halftime score, Dallas 21, the riddled Baltimore team and nothing. Now for our halftime highlights, which are being brought to you by, that's the way the scoring went. Dennison on a 1-yard run. Staubach on a 94-yard pass to Tony Dorsett, and what a play by Dorsett. And then Staubach on an 8-yard pass to Billy Joe Dupree. Now to our halftime highlights, which are being brought to you by Metropolitan Life. Come to Metropolitan and simplify your life. It's a big day in the National Football. As we turn our attention to yesterday's NFL highlights, we begin with number 34, the Heisman Trophy winner from Texas, making his debut at Atlanta for the Houston Oilers. And quickly, he made his presence felt. Swing pass from Pastorini. And watch Earl Campbell go. The quickness of the acceleration, the power. He looked so much like O.J. Simpson, high-stepping his way in. Touchdown. That made it 7-0, the Oilers in the first quarter. But in the second quarter, June Jones, the man who displaced Steve Bartkowski, found Bubba Bean alone, took advantage of a Houston blitz. That made it 7-7. And then, still in the second period, Cliff Parsley trying to punt for Houston. The ball blocked by Tommy Pridemore. And Button, who's got the football? A comedy of errors. Apparently Houston had it, but no. 45, Tom Moriarty. And Atlanta took a 14-7 lead. That's what it was at halftime. Then in the third quarter, Earl Campbell again, swinging right, going down the sideline. This young man is going to be, barring injury, one of the great stars in NFL history. And then subsequently, after that 25-yard jaunt by Campbell, that pass from Pastorini to Richard Castor, the ex-Jet, recently acquired by the Oilers, 14-14. After that, Freddie Steinfurt kicked 2 field goals for Atlanta, and Johnny James, with this kind of kick, pinned Houston in for the rest of the game. Watch it now. Watch how it's kept in play brilliantly there. And then out on the 1-yard line. So Atlanta upsets the Houston Oilers in their opening game at Fulton Stadium in Atlanta, 20-14. That's Jack Pardee, now the coach of the Washington Redskins, coach of the Bears a year ago. This is action against New England at Scottsboro. First play from scrimmage. Joey Theismann, now the first-string quarterback, to Danny Lightning Bugs from West Virginia, a refugee from the Giants. And that brilliant play, good for 63 yards, set up a field goal that made it 3-0 Washington. Then with the score, Washington 3-0, Patriots 2nd and 8. Steve Grogan passing to Stan Morgan for the touchdown. New England 7, that's Morgan number 86, to 3. Washington took a 9-7 lead, and Grogan went to work again. Down the middle of Harold Jackson, the recent acquisition from Los Angeles. Jackson jaunts in for the touchdown. That made it 14-9. Then came unexpected disaster for the Patriots. Less than 3 minutes left, seeking to run out the clock. The handoff to Horace Ivory, formerly of Oklahoma. The ball picked up by a former Patriot, Brad Dorsett, and he rambles all the way for a touchdown. And the Washington Redskins pluck an unexpected victory out of midair, 16-14 over the powerhouse New England Patriots. Dick Nolan, remember him, an assistant to Tom Landry, head coach at San Francisco, former Giant. This in the New Orleans Superdome. Tarkenton's team unexpectedly trailing 7-0. Sir Francis hitting Ricky Young, the acquisition from San Diego, touchdown. That made it 7-7. But in the second quarter, Archie Manning went to work. 2nd and 5 from their own 31. Henry Childs, number 85, corrals the pigskin. And this play is good for 52 yards. And so the drive was more than underway, because later in that same drive, the handoff goes to Tony Galbraith. He cuts back. Watch him, hits pay dirt. And that makes it 21-10 because the Saints had taken a 14-10 lead. trying to strike back. The Vikes trailing 24-17. 3rd and 6 at the Saints 11. And Tarkenton goes to the left to 85, Sammy White. It's off White's hands. Free safety 37, Tommy Myers picks it off. Look at Tommy Myers, one of the boys from Syracuse. 97 yards, touchdown. Myers, second of 3 interceptions for the day. So the Saints went on to win, upset, 31-24.
Replacing the injured Burt Jones for Baltimore, having a rough night. Roger Staubach having a good night after a slow start. There's Gil Brandt, the man that acquires the talent for the Dallas Cowboys. More bad news for Baltimore as they get set to receive the kickoff from Dallas. George Coons, their all-pro right tackle, has a reoccurring back injury. He may not see action in the second half. The number 1 linebacker, their best linebacker perhaps, number 53, Stan White, has a sprained knee. He may not see action. New NFL opening season crowd record set by tonight's attendance of the 14 games. Over 823,000 fans turned out to see the games in person, breaking last year's record of a little over 808,000. And over 65,000 here at Texas Stadium tonight, a late sellout. Now watching the Dallas Cowboys off to a slow start, and then they really exploded. Dennison scored from 1 yard out. That followed a 49-yard pass, Tony Hill from Roger Staubach, and then Dorsett with the icing on it with a 91-yard touchdown. Staubach to Dorsett. Joe Washington, recently acquired from San Diego, the former Oklahoma All-American, slithers out over the 25-yard line to the 26. And we are anticipating for Baltimore, Mike Kirkland, a quarterback, 15, because that's just about it. Bill Troop, the backup, behind Burt Jones, was injured also last week. The setbacks, Don McCauley, 23. Roosevelt Leaks, 48. The wide receivers, 35. Dowdy. Roger Carr, 81. The tight end, Mac Alston. Van Dyne, number 67, replaces the injured right tackle George Coons for Baltimore. 1st and 10, Baltimore, their first possession. Here in the second half, they're down 21 points. The ball just inside the 27-yard line. Ron Lee gets the call over the left side, and Lee upended right at the line of scrimmage. And here's the man we watched, Howard, in a game not so long ago, and he put on quite a show. We were kind of curious why he wasn't in there at the beginning.
That's right. We saw him against Houston 2 years ago. He broke one for long yardage. He's a fullback type who is running out of the halfback position, has enormous speed, can turn the corners, great power. He does, as you have noted, cough the ball up, perhaps much too occasionally. But I like to see him in there.
Big man, 6'4", 235, 2nd down and 10. Kirkland puts both backs out of the backfield. Firing over the middle, incomplete, in and out of the hands of Roosevelt Leaks, and it was D.D. Lewis on the coverage, Tom Henderson on the pressure.
I really think that was just a defensive play. Ball was pretty well thrown, Frank. Was that D.D. that knocked him? I thought it was Henderson that was right there on him.
It was Henderson.
And he just, again, you see him utilize that speed that he has. 2 first downs. Son of a gun. -7 yards passing.
3rd down, 10. Dowdy goes right. Carr goes left. Marshall Johnson, number 80, now enters a setback. That's it. Kirkland fires complete. Ron Lee has the first down out around the 41-yard line. Ron Lee last year over 340 yards rushing, backing up Lydell Mitchell and Roosevelt Leaks. Baltimore also has a young man they acquired recently, Don Hardiman. Played a lot of football with Houston, went to Tampa, was shot last year in a trade for Anthony Davis, and Baltimore acquired him earlier in the season. He has not seen action tonight. First and 10.
Look at that.
Roosevelt Leaks.
That's Brunig over there from that middle linebacker. He picked up 2 or 3 yards, but he's still there in the hole.
You know, you touched on it earlier, Don, and the middle linebacker is always the key to Tom's defense. Jethro Pugh, Randy White, they get a lot of acclaim and all that, but one of their jobs is to make sure no one gets to this man, number 53, Bob Brunig. He reads his keys, steps in, filling either right across the line of scrimmage from tackle to tackle.
It's really true. Tom really has felt that way since the New York player-coach days when he had Sam Huff there in the middle.
That was his whole game.
2nd and 7. 44-yard line of Baltimore.
Whoops, somebody missed something.
Flags are down. The ball may have been snapped a little early.
Tom used to drive in from Stamford, Connecticut every morning to the Yankee Stadium. That's when he was devising the 4-3 defense that became the staple defense of professional football. And the whole scheme was to have Robustelli, Greer, Mochaleski, and Katkavich hit to the outside, thus freeing Sam Huff. And that made Huff a star.
Illegal motion, right guard, declined, third down.
Isn't that amazing what freeway traffic will do to your mind?
Actually, it all began against Cleveland many years ago, about 1950-51. Giants had the 7. They couldn't contain them, so they started dropping the ends off, and that evolved to 4-3. Illegal motion, third down.
Get rid of it. Now then, come on out.
On lead. Back to the line of scrimmage. That's it. He is buried. Cliff Harris is up, and Randy White is over.
I talk about it only because, as you know, Giff, I was in that car every morning, driving in with Landry and the big R, Robustelli.
It just verifies what I said.
I think there's some conversation in that car.
Yeah, can you imagine? It looked like that plane was going to pick up a lot of yardage, but there was that pursuit from the inside. That thing was open there for a while.
David Lee will punt on fourth down. Deep is Butch Johnson, standing back at his 20-yard line. Butch Johnson at his own 27. And Johnson tacks on a few more. After the 42-yard line, Dallas is in good field position. And things will pick up dramatically now if Dallas continues where they left off in the first half. We'll be back in just a moment. 12:28 remaining in the third quarter. Frank Gifford along with Howard Cosell, Don Meredith. Our first NFL Monday night season of season we feel is the best we've ever had. One of the Dallas Cowgirls, and Baltimore has further troubles as Dallas has a 1st and 10, their own 43-yard line. Their regular cornerback Norm Thompson, we talked about him in the first quarter, will not be back for the rest of the game. Stan White will not be back, nor will George Coons, and this is Newhouse. And the whirling one whirls out to the 47-yard line, a gain of 6 yards. It'll be 2nd and 4.
And as you watch this Baltimore team, which is but a shell of the team that has won 3 division championships consecutively, think of this. Next week, Miami, and nobody brings a team back better than Don Shula. And after that, New England, a powerhouse team, despite its loss to Washington. That'll be a Monday night game.
Of course, Dallas will be tested by the Giants.
Yes, indeed.
Next Sunday. On 2nd down, Newhouse gets the first down. A little extra effort. He's down around the 47-yard line. And Little Robert is having quite a night.
He is having a good night. I don't think you're going to see Dallas throw very much now, except in those very obvious passing situations, because as I think some of us mentioned earlier in the game, the one thing that Tom felt has been a little slow in developing this preseason has been their running, but it hadn't really been that bad. So I imagine they'll work on that for a little while, don't you?
Roberts averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Dorsett is all world.
Oh, is he indeed? Here he is. Here's all world.
Well, what he made me start giving this ball to different folks.
1st and 10. Dorsett slithers off the left side, where Pat Donovan's doing a good job against Dutton. He has 95 yards now on the ground, a whole bunch catching the football.
Got a little trivia. You know, Dorsett's all his quickness and speed, but they have an agility drill that they set up out in training camp where a player runs through a bunch of tires and comes back and so forth. The guy that wins that is not Dorsett. It's a guy named Scott Laidlaw. Thought you might like that. He's a backup man behind Robert Newhouse. Agility.
Dorsett just under 200 yards on the night in offense. 99 receiving, 94 rushing on 1st and 10. Newhouse gets a shot. Flag goes down. Well, I think we're going to have a clip against Dallas.
That's Pearson coming in there. That's one of those new rules they threw in a couple of years ago, which I think is good. They're trying to eliminate that crackback block. But isn't there still a time or what am I trying to say? A space there where you can still get that crackback
tackle to tackle.
There you go. See there, Frank? He was outside the tackle.
Tony Hill cracked back against the Baltimore safety, number 40, Bruce Laird.
I apologize for getting in the rules. I'm sorry.
I thought you were great.
No, I'm not. I just somehow get tongue-tied about them. And that's what I said. What it was Pearson that cracked back?
Personal foul, clipping, number 88, offense.
Preston Pearson.
Yeah, so
Pure Pearson, rather.
Still 1st down.
Well,
Here you look at it,
he
John.
probably didn't mean to, but it was actually a fairly good force that time by Bruce Laird. He let him get a little bit deep, but that wasn't in between the tackles.
Boy, that was a close call, too. First down, 18. Ball at the 48-yard line of Baltimore. Roger.
Wow.
Connects with Drew Pearson. This time, Drew had hands problem in the first half. Holds on down at the 36-yard line. Just 12 of those yards back. Second down and 18. Dallas night thus far. They started slowly. Baltimore had a couple of early breaks. They could have got on the scoreboard. They couldn't capitalize. And it's been Dallas ever since midway in the first quarter as Tony Dorsett rolls back to the original line of scrimmage, maybe a yard, yard and a half short. It'll be third down and 12.
Well, this could be a propitious moment to talk about next week's game as Dallas appears on the verge of collecting some more. Denver against Minnesota at Bloomington, Minnesota. Denver with a staunch, a stellar defense that created the opportunities for the Broncos to beat Oakland in an opening game yesterday that was critically important despite the early stage of the season. But against Sir Francis, who can scramble, the defense may be hard put. We'll see next Monday night.
Out of the shotgun, and Staubach let too much time go. I believe there'll be a delay of game. Now we got an illegal procedure call, and the clock had run out.
Well, if they don't make it, it'll be an opportunity to see if we were right on that first field goal attempt by Raphael.
Offense.
They had him too close. He'll get one now where he can back up a little bit, get a better look at it. You can't get too close to see things. Like too close to the forest to see the trees, things like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Third down and 18. Andy Frederick, guilty of a false start. Right tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. Again, out of the shotgun. Baltimore trying the blitz. Dallas picks it up, and Drew Pearson should pick up 6. All right. Oh, that's pretty. 38-yard touchdown. Rogers' second of the night.
As I said, they're on the verge of collecting some more.
Boy, if you blitz, you end up in man-to-man coverage. Dwight Harrison replacing Norm Thompson is trying to stay with maybe the best wide receiver in football, Drew Pearson. He didn't do it.
I think that was a block by Dorsett, too. That might have been on Barnes, but that ball was also extremely well thrown. Pearson, as you mentioned, Frank, does have him man for man, the old down and in or post pattern, and that ball's right there. Don't break stride, just keep going. And that was Dwight Harrison covered him.
Dallas can't help themselves. They continue to pile it up. Raphael Seption for the conversion. Good. For Dallas with 8:43 remaining in the third quarter extends their lead to 28-0 over Baltimore. We'll be back in Texas in a moment. Dallas continues to roll. The number 1 ranked offensive team last year in the entire NFL, picking up where they left off. Not many changes. Ralph Neal is retired. They're getting good work out of Andy Frederick in that spot. They lead 28-0. Staubach, 38-yard touchdown pass to Drew Pearson. Incidentally, put Drew Pearson over the 4,000-yard career mark. Marshall Johnson from the 3-yard line. Flag is down, and Johnson's down at the 30. And while we wait to see what the flag is all about, we'll pause 5 seconds and allow our local stations all along the line to identify themselves to you. Obviously being assessed against Baltimore.
Holding during the run back, number 71. First down.
Mike Ozdowski of Baltimore. 1st and 10 for Baltimore. They'll try and get on the scoreboard. Not going to be easy. They've had difficulty moving the ball at all evening. 1st and 10 from their own 16. Setbacks Ron Lee, 34. 48 Roosevelt Leaks. Play action fake. Kirkland gets it off to Dowdy on the flanker screen. Benny Barnes corrals Dowdy at the 25-yard line, short of the first down by about a yard.
He threw that one under Big Too Tall's arms, didn't he?
Well, you can see how Marcia Broda feels. He was just kidding himself, not the fans of Baltimore, not us. At the very beginning of the telecast, Bert Jones right next to him must be thinking, at the very least, I could have moved the ball club and it would have been a representative game, but it's not. It's the anticipated route that we spoke of again and again in the first half.
You know, Howard, he did get a break yesterday with New England going down and Miami going down. Let's face it, he's going to have to get Bert Jones back in action. And he still is going to miss Lydell Mitchell. The handoff, Ron Lee, close to the first down.
I don't really think, it'd be hard for Bert Jones or anybody else to do too much more tonight. They've got some other holes in there, too. Bert, I guess, is their accepted quarterback and maybe a psychological letdown, but I haven't seen many places that anybody could do much more. He just, well, you know what I mean.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't think anybody's going to do much against him right here. Now, Baltimore's got to plug up some more holes. Bert's a heck of a nice guy and can throw well. Not left-handed, and that right one's the one that's hurt, so he'll have to get it fixed.
They got the first down. Kirkland.
There it is, right on the money.
Firing into the hands of number 81, Roger Carr, complete. His first reception of the night.
That's the key point, Frank, his first reception of the night. I think he's physically well now. He had a knee, and he had had knee surgery in Cotton Valley, as you watch Roger Carr. Cotton Valley isn't the place where you normally have knee surgery. You normally go to one of the great city hospitals and go to the great orthopedic surgeons, but not in this case.
Kirkland now for 1st and 10. Ron Lee, right side, gets a couple of his 2nd and 8, hit there and upended by Charlie Waters.
I have nothing against surgery in Cotton Valley, which is where Roger lives, but in point of fact, his recovery was rather delayed.
As he injured that knee last year.
Yeah.
Suffered through really a tough season, at least for Roger Carr. Don mentioned he had a great year in '76. He did. 43 receptions, 11 touchdowns.
He's a great player.
2nd down and 8. Kirkland goes for Carr and hits Aaron Kyle beautifully.
He just ran a better route. I tell you, Aaron Kyle, we got somebody who's having some problems. D.D. Lewis and Ron Lee seem to be going at it. They got an official there in the middle of them.
Well, they're indicating that Ron Lee leave the field.
It appears that Lee was ordered off the field.
That was Tunney in the middle of them there, isn't it?
Jim Tunney hopped right in there.
Well, I'll tell you this, it was not Arthur McCann. But nor was that in any way meant as a promotion for September 15th when you'll be seeing Ali against Spinks on ABC.
Certainly was not.
Although, who knows?
Let's see what happened here. All
Look
right,
at that.
D.D. came in from his outside. He missed the first shot. And just hold this stuff off. D.D. will take a wick at you, I'll tell you.
D.D. did take the first way. Did you see that right get in there?
I see how Tunney got in it, too. He couldn't get out of it.
I'd say that's not too smart to have a fight right there in front of him. Wasn't an official in the middle of you.
1st and 10. Dallas. Football, their own 29-yard line. They lead 28-0.
Interesting that Lee led with a right.
Why?
Because that's a dangerous blow against an orthodox fighter. It takes longer for the punch to reach the head of the other fighter who can respond with an answering left and get in more quickly.
Now I understand. Wait a minute. All right. Look out.
Dorsett.
I believe I'll go this way.
Versus the field. having collided with his guard, pulling guard, Herbert Scott, number 68. Loses a yard and a half, and another Baltimore Colt is down.
Oh, that's too bad. That's Doug Nettles over there. They really are getting themselves beat up, aren't they?
They really are. Just to finish your lesson in boxing, the right lead was popularized by Muhammad Ali in his prime. And he got away with it because of his tremendous speed. Now many young fighters like to use it, like Sugar Ray Leonard. We'll be right back.
Doug Nettles, the shaken up Baltimore Colt, has left the field under his own power, appeared to just have the wind knocked from him. They've also been informed that D.D. Lewis of the Cowboys and Ron Lee of the Colts have both been ejected from the game for fighting. Second down and 12 for Dallas. Ball on their own 27-yard line. Back. Dumps it to Dorsett. And Dorsett is on his way again. Sanders Shriver had a shot at him for a loss, and Dorsett just shook him off like he wasn't even there.
He almost looked like he just misaimed at him. He aimed where he thought he would be, and maybe most folks would have, but Tony can just accelerate so quickly, he was behind him.
Well, he wasn't even looking at Shriver, and he gave him a move, and Shriver missed. And another player is down. This time it's a Cowboy.
Uh-oh.
That's Burton Lawless. Dorsett short of the first down by about 3-4 yards.
The last graphic we showed, I think, expresses the total dominance by Dallas. The last 4 times they've had the ball, they've scored 4 touchdowns. 28-0.
And Dorsett putting on quite a show for national television. 107 yards receiving, 96 yards rushing on 8 receptions. 5:11 remaining in the third quarter. It's all Dallas thus far, and we'll be returning to Texas right after this. Burton Lawless, left guard and messenger man for Tom Landry tonight, is all right. Like Nettles a moment ago, Doug Nettles of Baltimore apparently just had the wind knocked from him. And Roger Staubach drops into the shotgun. Third down and 3. The ball at the 35-yard line. And Preston Pearson, as he always does, is in there on the passing situation. He's number 26. There he is.
Oh, what a move. What a move.
Whoops. Lost something. Found it at the 46 for a Dallas first down.
Now, Don, you know what Pearson's in there for. Frank called it in advance. Why isn't there better coverage of it?
Well, they got so many others that can do the same thing, but he just happens to be the one that's been open. There's a lot of design there. It's awful hard to cover. They're just, Roger, again, had good protection, so you start right there. Pearson's got that instinctive, or just had the instincts to know where these people are, and he does have a way of getting open. We were talking here while on the commercial. Danny White played some in the preseason. If Dallas has a weakness, I think it's the possibility that Roger Staubach could get hurt this year.
So they should be playing Danny.
Well, I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying when you look at their strengths, we've talked about, that it's pretty hard to find weaknesses. Roger is 36 years old, and he is in good shape and all that sort of jazz, and he's having a good night. They want him to play a lot in preseason because the preseason was shorter. Danny White, I think, could be a real key to the overall success of the season, along with second-year Glenn Carano, another quarterback out of University.
They're high on him, too. Very high. But you make a good point. I think we'll see White as Dallas scores again.
Illegal procedure. It's first down and 15. Dorsett. Oh, watch out.
Gosh, how can he do that? How does he know?
He could do it.
How does he know?
Doug Nettles will try and catch him.
He got him.
And he does, but not until Dorsett rambles all the way down to the 8-yard line. And you're looking at a very special football player.
You really are.
There's no question about that. Everything he did at the intercollegiate level, he is proving he can do at the professional level.
But you go against a grain right here.
That's it, Frank. He's not designed there, and that's from there on is Tony Dorsett. Now, from about that first 5 or 6 yards, it was a whole team thing. Boy, to have a guy like this on your side just really makes all the difference. Keep him healthy.
Johnny Majors, if you're watching tonight, what you have wrought with that young man.
He wrought a whole lot for Johnny Majors.
Yeah, he sure did.
51-yard pickup, and he continues to pile up the statistics. They're almost incredible at this point. First and goal, the ball at the 8-yard line. He's got 254 yards of offense as we look at Doug Dennison giving Dorsett a little bit of relief. 147 yards rushing on 15 attempts.
God.
3 receptions, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. This little man.
And a partridge in a pear tree. That's not bad.
He could produce that before the night's over. 2nd and goal, the ball at the 2-yard line. Well, you may not like the score if you're still with us, but we hope you are. But you're watching some rather incredible individual performances tonight, mainly by number 33, Tony Dorsett. Dennison battles over the right side. Mike Barnes, with a lot of help from his friends, puts the brakes on as Dennison gets to the 1. It'll be 3rd and goal.
16-game season. Let's assume he averages 150 yards per game.
All right.
That's 2,400 yards or thereabouts. Right?
Yeah, that's somewhere close. I'll take your word for it.
What does he do? Get a record with an asterisk next to his name, a la Roger Maris?
No. They've already settled that. They've said that, you know, it's whatever goes, it goes.
And Jim Brown did his in 12-game seasons. The 3 setbacks are in there. Alois Blackwell, a rookie from Houston, is in there. Gets the call. No, Roger hit the ball and dumps it off.
Oh, that's nice.
Jay Saldi, the tight end, foul back. Nifty piece of work. Put it into Alois Blackwell. Pulled it out. Saldi all alone in the end zone. Dallas touchdown.
That was nice. Well executed. Again, very difficult to defend against. A lot of pressure on that defense. Good fake by Roger. Slight roll. He could have walked that one in. Being a good quarterback that he is, let's get another.
About all that's left of this game, Don, is to see if we have the most lopsided score in the history of Monday Night Football.
Septian helps out that effort.
Yes, sir.
Adding one more, the Cowboys lead 35-0.
We're getting close. There was a night down here in Texas when the Cowboys played St. Louis. The Cowboys had been favored. St. Louis won it 38-0.
I still don't believe that.
It was a memorable night because of the discomfiture in the booth of Mr. Meredith. But now there is only pride in his former teammates, as it's clear the prestige, the tradition he left behind him has finally been captured by the current team.
They've really done a lot with what I left them, didn't they? These guys just took off. Did a good job. They still haven't finished this stadium. Look at there.
The Cowgirls performing, and they have set off a trend in the National Football League that swept around the entire league. Only a few teams don't have cheerleaders anymore.
Put a little sex and violence, boy, you can sell it.
Septian to kick off.
Mr. Meredith with a pungent comment.
I didn't say that, did I?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay.
It'll be
Right.
Marshall Johnson at the 7-yard line. Johnson has had some nifty returns, gets out to the 31-yard line once again. Marshall Johnson, 3rd year back, played his college football over in Houston. So Don McCauley comes in along with Roosevelt Leaks, and Mike Kirkland remains the quarterback. Ron Lee, of course, number 34, ejected from the game, as was D.D. Lewis of the Cowboys. 2:40 remaining in the 3rd quarter. Guy Brown, now number 59, in defensively in place of D.D. Lewis for Dallas. Roosevelt Leaks. Leaks out of the 35 to the 36-yard line. A gain of 5. It'll be 2nd and 5. And Danny White, the backup quarterback, is warming up with the sidelines for Dallas.
Which, of course, is exactly the thing to do. Tom Landry knew it long before we did. He's going to protect Roger the Dodger.
I think he knows what he's doing. Al McCauley had a pretty good block that time on Henderson, old Thomas Henderson. He laid him back, picked up about a 5-yard one.
Mike Kirkland having quite a baptism tonight. His first pro football game. Hands off to McCauley. McCauley finds a big hole, gets the first down, and goes out to the 46-yard line.
This game has to hurt the people of Baltimore very much. Through the long years of contemporary professional football history, except for a year or two here and there, the Colts have symbolized football excellence. the great teams of Weeb Eubank. The victory in the sudden death game over Frank's Giants, the victory the following year, the victory in the Super Bowl in '71, the last 3 years, and suddenly to come upon this, it has to hurt.
1st and 10 for Baltimore. Kirkland and open, and Roger Carney doesn't hold on. Incomplete. That was not. It's not working out well for Kirkland when he does perform.
That ball was well thrown. Aaron Kyle was a defensive back in there. Again, there's Cliff Harris. Aaron Kyle is one of the really best athletes that Dallas has ever drafted, according to their draft system. And he's playing in there right now.
Interesting that you say that, because there you see Aaron Kyle doing what he does best. When Gil Brandt drafted Aaron Kyle, number 1, there was much behind-the-scenes criticism of him around the league. But few, if any, defensive backs hit harder than Aaron Kyle. His coverage may not be the best, but he hits.
Trivia, Staubach has tied his own club record, 11 straight completions. 4 of the last 9 have been for touchdowns. For Baltimore, this is McCauley. Line of scrimmage a little more. It'll be 2nd down and 9. Rather 3rd down and 9. Mike Kirkland going all the way. They anticipated that. Bill Troop was also injured in last week's game, where Burt Jones had the incomplete separation of his right shoulder. Bill Troop has a bruised shoulder, could hand off possibly if he were needed. But it's Mike Kirkland all the way for Baltimore on 3rd and 10, and another ball. McCauley drops it again.
Yeah, Mike said, wait a minute, guys, I'm just now getting warmed up. Don't give me a little help. HEP help.
4th down, and David Lee will trot out. And Mike Kirkland is wondering what he has to do.
Once again, the statistics are self-revealing.
David Lee will punt deep for Dallas at his 12-yard line. Butch Johnson. Johnson will get an opportunity. Lee off the side of his foot. He wanted to go out of bounds and didn't get it. Johnson back out to the 33-yard line, corralled there by Darrell Luce. 24 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. Lopsided game, yes. Great individual performances, no question about it. Tony Dorsett putting on quite a show as Roger Staubach retires for the evening. Out comes Danny White, originally drafted back in '74, 3rd-round pick out of Arizona State. Played for Memphis in the WFL. Dorsett sits down. He'll get a rest. He should be exhausted just from running tonight. There it is. 254 yards of offense. Colton Richards is in, wide receiver, number 83. 86, Butch Johnson is in, wide receiver for Dallas. This is Dennison, right side. And they have got the horses.
They didn't slow down a lot right there. They got Scott Laidlaw at fullback, and Frank, I see Rayfield Wright's in at tackle.
Rayfield Wright, of course, trying to come back from knee surgery over a year ago. Seconds ticking away. And that is the end of the 3rd quarter as we look at the blocking over on the right side.
That's big Rayfield, number 70. You see blocking on Cook.
You're watching another exclusive of ABC Sports. That is the end of the 3rd quarter with the score Dallas 35, Baltimore nothing. We'll be back with the 4th quarter in just a moment. Now for Dallas 35, Scott Laidlaw. He's a Stanford boy. Doug Dennison from Kutztown State is in there, 21. Wide receivers are Richardson, Butch Johnson, the other one, number 86, Richardson, 83, and of course the quarterback, number 11, Danny White. Handoff, Scott Laidlaw. Laidlaw squeezes out the 1st down, out to about the 49-yard line.
We've got some baseball scores. Quickly, let's look at them. That game doesn't matter to the pennant race. That does. The Yanks won the first of 2, 9-1, lost the second 5-4, but all right, Seattle beat Milwaukee in the first. Milwaukee beat Seattle in the second. Boston lost to Baltimore, so the Yankees now trail the Red Sox by 5 games. They meet for 3 games later in the week in Fenway Park. So that's becoming a pennant race. Cleveland-Toronto game of no import.
First and 10. The ball at the 44-yard line of Dallas. White inside handoff. Doug Dennison turns the right side and gets out to the 46-yard line. A gain of 2. It'll be second down and 8.
That fellow's a squirmer, the man from Kutztown State. You get in close, you notice. Landry goes to Dennison to put the ball across.
Another free agent came up, 75. Had a big year in 76 when a lot of injuries hit the Dallas second offensive backs. He had 540 yards that year. Second and 8.
There he goes again.
Dennison. Very close to a first down after the 46-yard line. Sanders Schreiber made the initial hit for Baltimore.
If you're wondering about the National League pennant races, quickly, let's get you abreast on those. Bucks won the first of 2, 7-4 over the Mets. Bucks won the second, 7-0 over the Mets. Bucks have gone crazy. Cards beat the Phils in the first of 2, but the Phils beat the Cards in the second. The Phils now lead the Bucks by only 1 game. Montreal beat Chicago in the first of 2. Montreal made it a twin victory. That deepens Chicago's troubles as we go past the Crossroads Day Labor Day. Cincinnati over Houston in the 9th. And right there, you see a very, very big one. That's a final. The Dodgers beat the Giants 5-4.
And Danny White carries it himself for the Dallas first down.
So for you baseball fans who are also football fans, the Dodgers lead the Giants by 2.
Multiple changes. As we mentioned, Dallas will play the Giants next week. They play, of course, all the members of their Eastern Division of the NFC twice. They'll also play Los Angeles as
Some old Stickum stuff. That old gooey
explain
Stickum.
the shot. That's the Stickum they wear.
Yeah.
Doubt he wears a lot of it. I'll give you the rest of that Dallas schedule in a moment. First and 10. Ball of Baltimore's 45. Dennison getting a workout tonight. It's to the 41, gain of 4. It'll be second down and 6. And they also play the Rams. They play them in 2 weeks. They'll play Miami on Thursday, October the 26th. We'll be here for that one. Or rather, Minnesota for that one. They play Miami, Green Bay, New Orleans, New England, and the Jets. The Ring of Fame, I think they call it, don't they, Don? There's 4 Cowboys up there. Don Perkins, Bob Lilly, Chuck Howley, and Don himself.
Ring of Honor. That's it.
Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor. Yeah, you fall into it. That is nice.
Second and 6. Screen to the flanker. Golden Richards. Rayfield right in front of it. Didn't get the block. And Darrell Luce in there to make the stop. Number 58 for Baltimore. There's that ring we were speaking of a moment ago.
Oh, how many key interceptions Chuck Howley made.
And how about that guy right there?
Lilly, he was a team by himself.
There's my man.
They call him a legend. What was his quote?
Who? Lilly?
Yeah.
I don't know. Perkins was Perk, can you go? And he'd say,
The quote that applied to Lilly was really the quote of the opposition. I can't get started with you.
Oh, boy.
Third down, a long 3. The ball just inside the 40-yard line. Laidlaw.
They can run off of this.
This is Preston Pearson.
And look at that interference out there.
Oops. Flag is down. Pearson is down at the 30, has the first down, but a flag is down.
Looks like Herbert Scott's slow getting up, too, Frank. That was...
I think the call will be against Herbert Scott.
They call it off. Those were tough days, Don, when you started out with these Cowboys. It's
great, to swap those old lines now, Frank, because it does get tougher and, as the time goes on. But it really was fun, too. I think to be a part of the whole organization from the beginning was a lot of fun. Because we had some real characters down here.
holding, and we are having a little bit of a problem with Tim Tunney's radio mic.
May have gone out since he turned boxing referee.
Cowboys back up to Baltimore's 49-yard line, where it's third down and 9. Left goes Richardson. Right, Butch Johnson. Anyway, drops into the shotgun. Screen again to Pearson.
Ah, boy, Joe Irvin almost got out there, but just one step behind him, couldn't quite make it.
First down, Dallas.
That's amazing, isn't it? Just keep rolling right along. I'd like to draw to that pair, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's not bad, is it? John was making a point about Ermal Allen as we look at this in replay.
Little quick screen pass. Howard is just a flip out again to Pearson there. And that's the guy you've been talking about with his elusive moves. And he does have them. Kind of glides along.
As the statistics man, by the way, Preston.
Dennison on the draw, big hole, and look at him move. Another first down, or very close to a first down at the 25-yard line.
You know, you mentioned DeBerg. He looked excellent in a preseason game in Denver a week ago Friday night. Very impressive. After that performance, they dropped Plunkett. Excuse me, but let's face it, preseason games mean absolutely nothing.
I think they may have had a little more importance when they don't have as many of them, but I think as far as the result of whether you win or lose, it's not quite that important, but it really is great training ground to see what you guys can do.
Third down, Dennison just short of the first down. Laidlaw gets the call, and he has upset the ball. Bobbles loose, but quickly recovered there.
That one was read fairly well, wasn't it? No place to go.
Sure was.
Oh, closed in there, loose. Filling in behind Fred Cook and Mike Barnes. And so Dallas will trot out Raphael Seption. Now let's take a look again.
That's Butch Johnson, and Bruce Laird had that inside position, and he just carried him right in there. That was also Jay Saldi, number 87, trying to block in there, too. They just crushed that one down. Raphael, here's your shot, boy.
He was 16 of 18 for the Rams from inside the 40 a year ago. This one will be from 40 yards out. 45, brother. Whoops. He hooked it a little bit left. Plenty of distance.
Whatever the distance, Raphael is having trouble tonight. Hi, Tony. You gave us a good show, kid. We'll be right back.
Yes, he's had some. Tony Dorsett, if you joined us late, 254 yards of offense, 107 receiving, 147 rushing. Just a remarkable athlete. Roger Staubach left the game 16 of 22, 280 yards, 4 TDs. Right now, Baltimore has a first and 10, the ball at their own 27. Mike Kirkland dumps it out to the #1 draft pick, Reese McCall from Auburn.
If you look at the Baltimore roster, apparently there are only 2 rookies on it. Reese McCall of Auburn, the #1 draft choice. Mike Woods, linebacker from the University of Cincinnati, #2 choice. But in reality, there are 6 first-year men on that squad because 4 draft choices of a year ago who were out for the season are now on the roster, including Randy Burke, the wide receiver, who was the #1 draft choice of a year ago.
McCall got 7, his second down and 3. Ball at the 34-yard line. This is McCauley. McCauley short of the first down out to the 36-yard line. Bob Bruning made the stop.
If you want the test of a professional, or of a professional, it's when a man keeps going in the face of a 35-0 score. McCauley is a professional. There's no letdown in it.
I said something earlier I'll correct about McCauley. He is a senior, broke O.J. Simpson's single-season rushing record out of North Carolina. 1,720 yards, and they play some pretty heavy football in that conference. 3rd and 1. This is McCauley. Gets the first down. Out around the 38-yard line.
Now, make a point, Frank. You were discussing Dallas's schedule earlier. There's a very, very excellent 78 schedule analysis in a book called The Pro Football Predictor. And it sets forth the relative difficulty of every team's schedule in the league. Dallas does not have a difficult schedule based upon the strength of the opponents whom they have to face as the opponents played a year ago. Their difficulty is measured at .491. Baltimore's difficulty of schedule is at .513.
On 1st and 10. Kirkland. This will go into the hands of Cliff Harris. Harris immediately dropped. Glenn Dowdy, the intended receiver, the ball wobbling, thrown short, and Harris was right there playing center field, perhaps as good as anyone in football today.
He's an all-pro, has been through the years. It's safe to say as good as anyone in football today. And so it's still 35-0. Dallas will be right back.